It all started with what should have been a moment of pure excitement, the tracklist reveal for ALLDAY Project's first mini-album. But for fans of the group's main vocalist, Youngseo, it was the moment the floor dropped out. As people scanned the list of 6 songs, a chilling pattern emerged. There were 2 unit tracks, Where You At by Annie and Woon and Hot by Tarzan and Bailey. And then there was a solo track, Medusa, credited solely to Tarzan. The initial excitement quickly curdled into confusion, and then into outright anger, because fans quickly realized that Youngseo's initial, the letter Y, was nowhere to be found beside any of the special tracks. She was the only member of the 5 who was not given a unit song, and the only one denied a solo performance. In the hyper-competitive world of K-pop, where every line and every second of screen time is fiercely contested by fandoms, this wasn't just an oversight. To many, it was a declaration of war. The online reaction was immediate and ferocious. Social media platforms, particularly Twitter, became a battleground. One user's tweet, "I don't understand the thought process behind not including Youngseo for any unit or solo track," perfectly captured the widespread confusion. The sentiment quickly escalated, with others writing, "Insane how Youngseo is the only member to not get a unit or a solo, considering she's the only one who can sing." This wasn't just fan disappointment, it was a fundamental questioning of the company's logic and, by extension, Youngseo's value within the group. How could the main vocalist, arguably the strongest technical singer, be completely sidelined on her own group's debut album? This single question ignited a firestorm of speculation, and almost instantly, the public began to form their own theories about what was really happening behind the scenes at the Black label. A dominant theory began to circulate, one that painted a picture of corporate strategy over artistic fairness. Many netizens suggested that the label was intentionally positioning Tarzan as the group's it boy, a 5th-generation star in the making. By giving him both a unit song and a solo, they were allegedly capitalizing on his strong existing support from Korean netizens, hoping his personal fandom power would be the engine to push the group's songs onto the music charts. It was a cold, calculated move, in the eyes of critics, one that sacrificed Youngseo's potential for the perceived greater good of the group's commercial success. But just as this narrative was gaining traction, the group's defenders stepped into the fray, armed with their own set of facts and context. These fans rushed to Tarzan's defense, offering a different perspective. They clarified that Medusa wasn't a brand new song created for the album, but a track Tarzan had performed multiple times at club events, where it had reportedly received an overwhelmingly positive crowd response. Releasing it officially, they argued, was simply a smart business decision to capitalize on that pre-existing hype and potentially bring club-level popularity to the whole group. Furthermore, they pointed out that Tarzan had been deeply involved in writing and composing music for ALLDAY Project from the very beginning, even creating songs for his own activities outside the group. In their eyes, it made perfect sense for the company to reward his creative contributions. As one fan logically put it, "I assume the Tarzan and Bailey and Woon and Annie duets are written and composed by them, so they were given the opportunity to showcase their work to the world." According to them, Youngseo hadn't shown any interest in composing, so that might be why she didn't get a solo or duo moment. This argument introduced a new compelling layer. Was this about favoritism, or was it simply about rewarding self-starters? From there, the conversation took an even more cynical turn. Another theory emerged, one that accused the Black label of employing a controversial marketing tactic known as noise marketing. The idea was that the company knew full well that excluding Youngseo would spark immediate and intense outrage. They were counting on it. This outrage would in turn generate massive non-stop discussion online, forcing people to talk about ALLDAY Project. In this calculated scenario, controversy itself would become the primary promotion strategy. Whether people were angry or defending the group, they were still engaging, still driving up metrics, and still making the group a trending topic. It was a dangerous game, but one that some argued could pay off in a crowded industry, where being talked about for any reason is often seen as better than being ignored. Amidst all the theories, a separate, more pragmatic concern began to spread. Many seasoned K-pop fans felt that it was simply too early in ALLDAY Project's career for unit and solo tracks at all. As rookies, their primary mission should be to solidify their group identity with the general public, not to fragment their efforts. Splitting them up so early, they worried, would only create division within the fandom and make it harder for any one song to chart successfully, ultimately jeopardizing the group's fight to establish a stable footing in the industry. The backlash grew so intense so quickly that it forced an unprecedented reaction. The group's official social media account quietly removed the original tracklist post and replaced it with a new edited version. And in this updated dedicated image, something had changed. The song You and I now showed the initials of every member except Youngseo faded subtly into the background, while the Y representing her name was made noticeably larger, darker, and more prominent. The message to many was clear. This track would be her moment to shine. This sudden edit, however, only fueled more questions. Was this a genuine, pre-planned artistic choice that fans had simply missed? Or was it a last-minute panicked adjustment by a company scrambling to contain a PR disaster? Fans who had been following every teaser insisted that the group had already hinted long before the backlash that You and I Now was a song centered around Youngseo's vocals. Judging from the preview, listeners agreed it sounded like a track where she would carry the majority of the lines. But for Youngseo's most dedicated supporters, this change was too little too late. They argued that while You and I Now might highlight her voice, it was still a full group track, not a true solo or a dedicated subunit stage like the other members received. To them, this distinction was everything, and it only reinforced their belief that Youngseo was being systematically treated as a second-tier member within her own group. And then, the situation exploded beyond the track list. As the controversy raged, people began digging through every piece of all-day project content they could find. Behind-the-scenes videos, interviews, live streams, searching for any clue, any hint that could explain Youngseo's perceived sidelining. Soon, a collection of carefully edited clips began circulating online, and to a concerned public, they appeared to tell a damning story. One of the most widely shared clips came from an interview where Annie, discussing the group's dark concept, casually remarked that even though they had a dark image, Youngseo was always glowing in pink. Youngseo quickly insisted this wasn't true on stage, explaining that they all present the same image during performances, even if she dresses differently off stage. Viewers pointed out how she nervously glanced down at her outfit after saying this, and the clip then cut to her admitting it could be difficult when everything about the group's concept leaned so dark. The host joked, reminding her they were signed under the black label, and she responded with what many interpreted as a groan of resignation. Another moment from that same interview added more fuel to the fire. Woon mentioned how close the members were as friends, talking about their great chemistry. Immediately after, Youngseo brought up a personal concern, saying she had worried about an injury he had and had texted him 6 times to check on him. Woon brushed the comment aside without acknowledgement, and fans claimed Youngseo's expression shifted instantly, her face falling as if genuinely hurt. Woon must have noticed because he eventually told her he was just joking. And while she laughed in response, viewers argued she seemed distant and spoke less for the rest of the interview. The narrative was crystallizing online. One critical post read, "Just a bunch of tormentors with Napo babies backing them all up. Youngseo should just leave this group. They don't appreciate you and even make fun of you on broadcast." The clips snowballed, culminating in one that showed the other 4 members, Annie, Woon, Tarzan, and Bailey, hanging out together shopping without Youngseo. To countless viewers, this was the final, undeniable proof. She was being deliberately ostracized. A fan wrote, "Leaving out Youngseo again. Their group dynamics is a joke. First Travis Scott concert and now going shopping without her." But when you step back and look closer, as with most internet firestorms, the full picture is far more complicated than the edited clips suggest. The defenders of the group's dynamic soon presented their counter-evidence. They explained that the controversial clip where Annie comments on Youngseo glowing in pink was actually from a playful segment where the members were asked to lightly diss each other in good fun. The viral video, they claimed, had been deceptively edited, splicing together unrelated moments to fabricate a narrative of mistreatment. In reality, the full context showed a different story. One fan even clarified, "The cut part shows Youngseo getting a bit emotional after Woon said she sometimes jokes too much and hurts his feelings. She said she always apologizes after. They're friends. It's really not that deep." As for the members hanging out without her, fans offered simple, logical explanations. Perhaps Youngseo wasn't free that day, or maybe she simply didn't feel like going out. It wasn't an official schedule. It was a private outing, and as an individual, she had every right to choose not to participate, whether she was busy, resting, or just not in the mood.